get started. So the Kansas Federation of Republican Women is absolutely delighted to have all three Republican candidates for Attorney General join us today for this forum. There are specific ground rules. We had the candidates draw for the number. Each candidate is going to have the opportunity to answer every single question. We only have 5 questions, and then the last question you will have about 5 minutes to basically state your case of why you should be elected Attorney General. Each candidate will have 4 minutes to answer each question. We do have a timekeeper, Missy Smith, and she can be pretty assertive if you don't know. So when you see the red, that means you have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds, okay? And as one of you said, we're politicians, we like to talk, so we will keep you on time. So. All right, there will be no questions from the floor. We ask everybody to be as quiet as possible and respectful of their time so we can have the maximum opportunity to learn all about them in their race. Okay, so when I ask the question, if you just want to get up and talk at the podium, that's fine. All right, so the first question. If elected Attorney General, what will be your top 2 priorities?
Well, good morning, everybody. First of all, thanks for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity. As somebody who's never been involved in politics, I didn't even run for student council. It's great to have the opportunity to come introduce myself to influential Republican leaders across the state. So thank you for that chance. I will tell you, though, you bet. Sorry, this is my first time doing something like this, so I hope you'll be gentle with me. Is that better? Okay. All right. My 2 top priorities as your Attorney General will be, number 1, to do everything that I can do to help keep you safe. I believe that right now we're at a unique time in our country and in our state. The violent crime rate, unfortunately, is rising. The murder rate is staggeringly higher this year over last. More murders last year than we ever had in the state of Kansas in our history. And I think it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because we have this sort of unique combination of events in our state right now and really even in our country where we have efforts to defund the police. We have a profound disrespect for the rule of law. We have a community right here in Kansas that within the last 3 weeks has become a sanctuary city. We seem to have reached this point in our society where in order to be considered socially enlightened, you have to be soft on crime. You have to agree with eliminating mandatory minimum sentences and shortening prison sentences and letting people out of prison early and reforming bail to let people out while they're awaiting trial on violent crimes. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody with that combination going on that our crime rate is rising. And with a rising crime rate and us not feeling safe, that doesn't let businesses thrive and it doesn't help our economy. So I think the most important thing that an Attorney General can do as your chief law enforcement official is to do everything in his or her power to keep you safe. The other priority that I would have would be being your top lawyer. Okay? The state's Attorney General doesn't just prosecute. The state's Attorney General also defends the civil suits filed against the state and increasingly has to push back against federal overreach, which has become critically important in recent times. If value them both is important to you, and it's important to me, I urge you to consider this election as a job interview because the next Attorney General of our state is the one that will be standing at the podium in front of the Kansas Supreme Court defending that amendment when it passes on August 2nd. I believe it will pass. I believe it should pass. But having that amendment pass is just the beginning. Once it passes, the abortion industry and the abortion lobby is coming after it with both barrels. Planned Parenthood, the Center for Reproductive Rights, they are going to sue. And it's the next Attorney General who will be managing all of that litigation. Okay? It will be the next Attorney General standing at the podium in front of the Kansas Supreme Court, the same Kansas Supreme Court that found the right to an abortion in our Constitution. That's That's the Supreme Court that the next Attorney General will have to appear in front of to uphold the validity of that amendment. So whether it's focused, complex litigation to help you and your interests, or keeping you safe, I think those are the two most important things that the Attorney General does, and those will be my priorities when I'm your Attorney General. Thank you.
And tell me, was the red card, is that time's up, or is that 1 minute to go? And what's that? Oh, that's 30 seconds. Oh, that's time's up. Okay. Okay. Or you tell me when you're ready. Okay. Well, to answer the question directly, number one, go on offense and sue Joe Biden wherever he transgresses the law. And number two, play aggressive defense against the ACLU. So let's talk about number one. Backing up in time, in November 2020, I wasn't planning on running for Attorney General. I had just finished my background checks and was supposed to be in the second term of the Trump administration. They were trying to get rid of the people who had undermined the president's agenda and put in a new cabinet and sub-cabinet who would have pushed his agenda. Well, that all changed. Then in December of 2020, after the election shenanigans, there was a group of 5 attorneys, I was one of them, who prepared the case that eventually became Texas versus Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan. I was one of those attorney generals who wrote that case. And we then asked various attorneys generals around the country, would you be willing to be the lead state and take on this violation of the Electoral College? And I don't have time to get into it, but it's a very clear-cut case. It has nothing to do with voter fraud. It has everything to do with changing the rules going into an election. Only one attorney general in the entire United States had the backbone to do it. That was Ken Paxton of Texas. That was an important lesson for me, because there are a lot of attorneys general who talk tough, who are Republican, who call themselves conservative, but when it comes time to go stand on a limb and actually do something that has risk, they won't do it. So then in January 20th of 2021, a week after that, President Biden unleashed 12 executive orders, more than 12, all of which violated the Constitution or federal law or both. And I realized the Attorney General is the only official position to fight back. The Attorney General has the standing to challenge just about any illegal or unconstitutional federal action, federal order, or federal statute. And so to answer the first part of the question, suing Joe Biden is a critically important job, and not enough attorneys general have the will to do it. Let me give you some numbers. In the first 3 years of the Trump administration, there were 103 lawsuits brought by blue state attorney generals against the president. Right now, we're just over a couple dozen brought by red attorney generals, and 20 of them have been brought by Texas. Texas is carrying the rest of the country, the rest of the conservative movement on its shoulders. If I'm blessed to be elected Attorney General, Kansas will stand shoulder to shoulder with Texas, and we will both lead the charge against the Biden administration. I look forward to waking up each morning, having breakfast, and thinking about my next lawsuit against Joe Biden. That will be a pleasure. Now, I believe I'm experienced in this because it's called lawfare. Lawfare is something the Democrats have been engaging in for many decades, and that is they engage in the most important policy battles in our country in court. Well, our side has only started doing it about a decade ago. But I have more experience suing Democrat presidents than anyone running for Attorney General in this state, and maybe in just about any state other than Ken Paxton in Texas. I've sued an out-of-control Democrat president 4 times. First, I brought the first lawsuit on behalf of 10 ICE officers who asked me to represent them against the DACA amnesty of President Obama in 2012. Second, I brought one of the OSHA lawsuits on behalf of North Dakota employers and employees, and we won on January 13th in the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, our case was consolidated with more than a dozen other cases, so there are a lot of attorneys involved, and I can't take sole credit for that. But we won, and we defeated Biden's OSHA mandate forcing employers to vaccinate. And then third, I'm representing Texas sheriffs who are suing to stop Biden's unconstitutional and illegal policies on the border. And fourth, you may have heard just in Wichita on Tuesday, I'm representing U.S. Airmen at McConnell Air Force Base and Offutt Base. Thank you. But the second answer is fighting the ACLU. As Tony mentioned, when we pass value them both, they are going to come back. Our legislature will be free to pass laws that protect life as they should, and the ACLU will come back at us. I have fought the ACLU many, many times. They know me. They use my name to fundraise, and they will continue to do so when we take them on in court. Thanks.
Well, good morning. I'm Kelly Warren. It's an honor to be here with the Kansas Federation of Republican Women as the only Republican woman in this race. And I tell you what, it's also an honor to be here because I stand before you as the first woman in Kansas history to be chairman of the Kansas Senate Judiciary Committee. And I can tell you, as chief legal advocate of the state, if I'm elected Attorney General, I will continue to fight right here in Kansas for Kansans like all of us. For my top 3 issues, quite frankly, are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And here's what I have been doing for Kansans already on those 3 fronts. I'm not just talking about defending life and standing up for life. I have actually delivered and got something done. I, in fact, ran for office for the first time in 2018, got elected to the House because we had a woke liberal Republican who, quite frankly, wasn't pro-life. So I ran against her and defeated her. And then again in the Senate in 2020, I ran against and defeated, this was a big motivation for me, the only Republican senator in Kansas who voted no on Value Them Both. I ran against him and I defeated him, and we got Value Them Both on your ballot. And when it passes, which I believe it will, I'm going to be the Attorney General to stand and defend it. It's important we protect innocent life. The second issue, liberty. I have been working and passing law, getting policy in place to keep Kansans safe right now. When I knocked doors in 2020, we talked about defunding the police and the radical liberal agenda that entails. That's just one piece of it, right? We've got to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness against the far left radical agenda on every front. So I've been working with our Kansas County and District Attorneys Association. I've been working with the Kansas Sheriff's Association, with the Kansas Chiefs of Police Association, and the Kansas Peace Officers Association to pass legislation that right now is getting signed into law to keep all of us safe. Gives our prosecutors and our law enforcement more tools to put bad actors behind bars where they belong. On the issue of pursuit of happiness, I think we've seen our liberty and our pursuit of happiness basically destroyed these last 2 years by government overreach. So what have I been doing to protect Kansans in that regard? Well, as a legislator, I was part of special session this last November it was. And we got in place for Kansans protecting your religious liberty. So if the government or your employer was telling you you had to take a COVID-19 shot and you didn't want to, you had a religious exemption that would be enforceable because of what we did, and you would have also a medical exemption so that your bodily autonomy, your individual right, your decision to make that decision with your doctor and your body, if to have a job, you've got to take a shot like that. We got that enacted and signed into law. So I will continue to work on policies like that as our Attorney General. It's important that we have someone with the experience of getting policy in place. The office is a broad office, and I think if you've heard Derek Schmidt talk, he talks about policy he has led on. I have that experience. And so those for me are the top 3 issues because rest assured, though we are seeing across the country that mandates are dropping and all, they'll be back after the election in November, and they very well could. So we're working right now to bring more legislation for more protections for Kansans and your liberties. So thank you.
So the second question, oops.
4 minutes.
Right. All right, so the second question, we'll start with Kris first. Per the Kansas Attorney General's website, approximately 12 different divisions, including the KBI, fall under the purview of the Attorney General's office. Open.gov for 2020 had 180 individuals receiving payroll under the Attorney General's office. Tell us about the experience you have that will translate into supervising and managing a bureaucracy of this size.
Thank you for the question. As many of you know, I was Secretary of State of Kansas for 8 years, and when I came into that office, I had a similar, challenge, and it is a challenge, managing a government agency, managing expectations. When I came in, they said, uh-oh, Kobach's coming in, he's going to fire everyone, that radical conservative. Well, I didn't, but I did see the need to reduce the size of the agency because the agency had grown too large. And I decided that there was a better way to do it. The way to do it was to allow natural attrition. As time goes on, people retire from government agencies. And as time goes on, people also find better paying jobs, more lucrative jobs in the private sector. And so I directed my chiefs of the divisions in the Secretary of State's office to, whenever someone retires or moves to the private sector, don't refill the position. And before you even think of refilling the position, come to me and we'll see if it's absolutely necessary. Because in government, there's a lot of fat. And we were able to do that. And we were able to shrink the size of the Secretary of State's office by 18%, simply by that, by natural attrition and not refilling. And so Kobach didn't come in there and just slash and burn and fire everybody, but we did shrink the agency over time. And most of that shrinkage came in just in the first 4 years. So I would be looking at doing the same thing with respect to staff in the Attorney General's office, but with some caveats here. Not necessarily in the attorneys, in the administrative parts of the office, where there is the possibility of reducing the number of people. Now, you've heard the numbers about the Attorney General's office in Kansas. That sounds pretty big, but if you compare it to, say, the Attorney General's office in Texas, where they have over 400 attorneys, it's not that big. Now, of course, Texas is a huge state compared to Kansas, much bigger population-wise and geographically. But it's not. Kansas doesn't rank up there as one of the most top-heavy or largest Attorney General's office in the country. So I think there is room for seeing the same kind of gains I made as your Secretary of State in terms of reducing unnecessary personnel. But I want to be completely frank. I will probably be bringing in some of the best attorneys around the country that I've worked with in going against the ACLU, defending Arizona's laws against the ACLU, defending Texas laws against the ACLU, defending cities' laws against the ACLU. I've met some of the best conservative litigators in the country, and I'd like to bring them to Kansas. And we'll have a special litigation division, which will be the division which will lead the charge against the Biden administration. So we will be bringing in a few of the best attorneys in the country that I have worked with and who I believe will come if I ask them. So there will be some gain in the number of attorneys to take on the Biden administration, but we will more than offset with shrinkage in other areas of the department. Thanks.
Well, as a lifelong Kansan, I know that Kansas is a diverse state, and I have experience working with Kansans from across the state to lead on policy, to get policy done that Kansans care about. I will bring that experience to the Office of Attorney General. Before I did policy work, I have 25 plus years of experience as an attorney, breadth and depth on all different kinds of issues that you can imagine, from fighting price fixing to fighting bad medicine coming over from China to the United States, and for enforcing private property rights. So I will bring that breadth and depth of experience to those 12 divisions that are under the Attorney General in the office. And I bring that breadth and depth of experience too as Senate Judiciary Chairman. We see all kinds of issues come before the committee. We are the busiest committee in the legislature, from working on law and order type bills to business bills, to private property rights, and I have led that committee to successfully shepherd policy through the legislature to become law for Kansans. Now, before I got to do that in the Senate, I had to fight and win to do that. So I have experience fighting and winning in tough elections, and also have a record of getting that policy through and also winning in the courtroom. So I will bring that breadth of experience to the office. I also have experience already working with the legislature and, quite frankly, with the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General brings legislation to the legislature. Often it's to the Senate Judiciary Committee. I have worked closely with the office and together to collaborate to see what areas of law do we need to bring more tools, what do we need to fix, and so I already have experience to do that. And when I'm across the street from the Capitol in the Attorney General's office, I already have colleagues who have worked with me, who have seen my leadership, and who have followed my leadership, quite frankly. I have fought on the Senate floor with the Democrats right there, questioning me. You can watch it on video, and being very, I'll say, aggressive about it, and still prevail. So you can see right there for yourselves. I have a proven track record. I don't have to just say I do. You can go look and see that I have. So I think that's important in this office, to take on challenges, to fight and win. And I have that experience, and people trust me and they follow. And I think with all the variety of issues that come before the Attorney General's office, it's important to have someone like me who has that breadth and depth of experience to fight for Kansans. And we know that the left, whatever we do, they're going to sue, and they're going to sue to try to turn Kansas blue, because you know what? They know that perhaps our courtrooms are more friendly to the left political agenda than the Kansas voters are. So we need to make sure that we keep the office Republican, because you can rest also assured that if the Republican doesn't win in November and we have a Democrat Attorney General, that Attorney General will be an ally for Biden and all his leftist agendas, and quite frankly, the leftist agendas that's here in Kansas too. So we need someone who has experience fighting and winning on all issues, policy, in the court of public opinion, in elections, and in the courtroom. Thank you.
Let me start out by talking with you a little bit about my background. I'm the only candidate in this race who's not a politician. I'm a prosecutor and I'm a litigator. I started out in the DA's office in Shawnee County in Topeka in 1993 prosecuting speeding tickets, and I worked my way up to murder cases. And then I went to work for the Attorney General's office. I'm the only candidate in this race who's actually worked in the Attorney General's office. In 1998, I got hired by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Topeka, and over the course of the next 22 years, I prosecuted everything from meth labs to complex drug organizations, Mexican cartels, Chinese organized crime, Jamaican crime families. In 2007, I went to Baghdad and I worked on the war crimes trial. I helped the Iraqis try and convict 12 members of Saddam Hussein's regime, including his cousin, Chemical Ali. Ultimately was executed for war crimes on the case that I helped them prosecute. I did the office's death penalty litigation when I came back to Kansas in the U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm the only candidate in this race who's actually handled a death penalty case. A lot of folks don't realize the Kansas Attorney General plays an important role in every single death penalty case that's prosecuted in state court in Kansas. I'm the only candidate in this race who's ever worked on any of those cases. I spent 5 years as the lead prosecutor on the USS Cole bombing case at Guantanamo Bay. I had the privilege of standing up in front of a military judge in Guantanamo and representing the United States of America against the guy that bin Laden sent to Yemen to blow up the USS Cole. I came back to Topeka in 2013, and I spent the next 7 years prosecuting high-profile national security cases here in Kansas. One thing that I am not going to do is downsize the Attorney General's office. To me, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen, and the reason is the Kansas Attorney General is a resource for your prosecutor in your county, whether it's your district attorney or your county attorney. And as I travel around the state and talk to them and get their endorsement, what I hear from them is, we need your help and we need more help. Okay? The Attorney General's office doesn't have the resources that it needs to accomplish its core mission right now. And its core mission is doing what I did when I worked in the office, which is traveling around the state and helping those county attorneys and district attorneys with complex cases, with conflict cases, with murder cases, with capital cases, with public corruption cases. The county attorneys will tell you they need more help, and the Attorney General's office doesn't have the resources to do that right now. Okay? We need to get more resources out in the field, especially right now. For the last 2 years, the court system has had a lid put on it because of COVID. And you talk to your county attorney, and they're going to tell you that it's going to take years to dig back out from that. Years when they need the help of the Attorney General's office. Think about what you've heard today. You can't, on one hand, talk about indiscriminately filing lawsuits, and on the other hand, talk about downsizing the office that does that. Okay? One of the reasons that I decided to get into this race was because the Attorney General's office needs a prosecutor and an experienced litigator, and not a politician. Let's talk about those 12 components. Each and every one of them has something to do with investigation and prosecution, including the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. That is a powerful investigative body. It can destroy someone's life by opening an investigation that's not warranted. The person making the decisions about those things should be a prosecutor and an experienced lawyer and not a politician.
Thank you. Next question. Kelly will go first. As Chief Law Enforcement Officer, what steps would you take when cities or municipalities pass ordinances that purposely promote illegal activity and/or prevent law enforcement to do their job? Most recent example is the ordinance passed in Wyandotte County.
I'm already working with the Attorney General to roll back that ordinance. The Attorney General brought a piece of legislation to the legislature. It's House Bill 2717, I believe, and I will work with the Attorney General's office to get that passed. Because that's my job right now, to do that. And my job as Attorney General would be to continue to do the same thing. Make sure that we are defending life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, whatever it looks like and whatever form it takes. We don't know what that's going to be, right? We didn't know these COVID mandates were coming and these restrictions. But I'm glad that I defeated those woke liberal Republicans who would then be making different decisions about my life and my liberty and my pursuit of happiness. So making decisions in the office is an important decision. You have seen, I have a proven track record of decisions I have made. Prosecuting is one important aspect of the office, but there's 11 other divisions too. So you need a leader in that office who has led and had to make policy decisions. Are you going to take this avenue? Are you going to take that avenue? What cases are you going to get involved in? What policy are you going to be the leader on and be the first one to walk into that court and to file that lawsuit? You have seen my record on these types of issues. You know I run against incumbents in our own party and I win when we need to. Be a problem solver. We had a problem in my House district and my Senate district. So people asked me to step up and run and win, and I did that. So we also need someone who can lead others. And I have done that on very controversial policies. Most principally, I think you need someone that you can look at them and know their character, because you don't know, I don't know, what decisions are going to be laid on the desk of the Attorney General. With me, you know I have stood up. I've had to tell you who I am, the voters. You can talk with me at your doorsteps. I've knocked my whole district a couple of times, and I met the voters, met Kansans where they are. I've talked with Kansans from across the state. I work with them every day, quite frankly, in the Senate. I work with representatives from across the state every single day. I lead them on my committee, and I will lead the state of Kansas as Attorney General as well, because it's important. We don't all agree on what policy should be, but with me, you know where I stand because you can see it. You can see my track record. I'm a proven conservative. It's one thing to be conservative, but if you don't win, then our policies aren't represented anywhere. Or you could call yourself conservative, but we don't know. With me, you know I'm conservative. You can look at my voting record. You could look at my track record, and I have proven it. That's who I am. That's why we need this office to be kept Republican and with someone who has the experience and the know-how to do it. A couple years ago, I was just like you. I still go to meetings, and I was sitting there, and it was 2018, and like I said, we had a problem, a liberal, woke Republican in the House seat, and people asked me to step up and run. This is the first time. This was, 4 years ago, 2018? So I said, okay, put on my shoes and knocked those doors, met the moms and dads, the grandmas and the grandpas right where they live, and I earned their trust. Their trust. They could know me, and I won that race. 2020, different problem. Same problem, different person. Ran and defeated that senator too. So I've had to tell you who I am and go be that person in elected office. So I've earned the trust of Kansans, and I would hope to earn your trust as well. Thank you.
The sanctuary city ordinance in Wyatt County is troubling. The I think one of the biggest problems with it is it mandates that local officers not be allowed to cooperate with their federal partners in pursuing anybody who is here improperly, even if that person is suspected of having committed a crime. So I can tell you that as a prosecutor, oftentimes there's a big difference between knowing that someone committed a crime and being able to prove it. Okay? In Wyandotte County right now, because of that ordinance, even if law enforcement knows who committed a violent crime, okay, they cannot work with the feds to have that person removed from the country. So what that ordinance did is it took a tool away from law enforcement at a time when our crime rate is rising and we are less safe. The last thing that we should be doing is taking tools away from law enforcement. We should be giving them more tools. And that's the problem with these sanctuary city ordinances. Okay? I went to Wyandotte County the Monday before that ordinance passed, stood on the courthouse steps, and spoke out against that ordinance. I did that as a candidate. Okay? The reason that I want to be your attorney general is that after the election, I will have the pulpit. Okay? I will have the podium to speak out publicly against measures like that that take tools away from law enforcement and make us less safe. The Attorney General's office, we've talked about the fact that all of those divisions, every single one of them touches in some way on investigation and prosecution. Okay? You wouldn't think necessarily that the civil division does, right? The job of the folks in the civil division is to represent the state in lawsuits that are filed against the state. Over half of those lawsuits are prisoner litigation. Okay? Those are folks that have been convicted of crimes that are now suing and trying to get out. Okay? Medicare, Medicaid fraud, elderly abuse, crime victims compensation. Okay? The Kansas Bureau of Investigation. All of those divisions have something or other to do with investigation and prosecution. And that's one of the reasons that in Kansas, your attorney general is the chief law enforcement official of your state. I am the only candidate who walks into that office on day one, having worked in the office and having spent nearly 30 years dealing with all of the issues that that office deals with. I am the candidate who's ready to go to work on day one, who can work against those measures and who has the voice of experience to speak out against them and keep them from getting passed in the first place.
On immigration questions, we have 40 minutes. Is that correct? Okay. Look, I don't know where to begin here. I've been fighting against sanctuary cities for the last 20 years of my career, ever since they began. I advised President Trump during the 2016 election on sanctuary cities and got him to start talking about sanctuary cities. There's a lot to talk about here. There are three types of sanctuary cities: don't ask, don't tell, and don't detain. Don't ask and don't tell means don't ask a person if he's an illegal alien. Don't tell means don't tell the feds if you find out he is. And don't detain is the most recent one, encouraged by the ACLU. They sent letters to every single sheriff in America saying, hey, we're going to sue you if you start detaining people when ICE says, please detain this person. This is the most pernicious type of sanctuary jurisdiction, and there are more than 200 of them across the country. Sorry, more than 300 across the country. Kansas has had multiple counties as sanctuary cities. I started making noise about this in 2015 or 16 when this third type of jurisdiction started proliferating everywhere. Sedgwick County used to be a sanctuary city. Then I started making noise about it and introduced a bill, or wrote the bill that was introduced in the Kansas legislature, and Sedgwick County, thank goodness, changed their policies. Johnson County was a sanctuary city. Then I talked to Cal Hayden before he became sheriff and talked to him about what the sanctuary policy was, and Johnson County got rid of its sanctuary policy. We still have three smaller counties that are sanctuary counties. I think Ford, Harvey, and Butler. I may be wrong on one of them. And then now we have Wyandotte County, a larger county, as a sanctuary county. This is an issue, and I have fought this issue many times. Secondly, I've actually litigated this. You can count on one hand the number of attorneys in America who actually know the statutes governing sanctuary cities. In 1996, Congress passed 8 U.S.C. 1373C, which says you shall not adopt one of the first two types of sanctuary policies. But did you know they forgot to put teeth in the law? They just thought, well, gosh, if Congress says that you can't do this, cities and counties in America will obey, right? Wrong. And that's what we've learned since then. And so it violates federal law already. One of the cases that I feel most passionately about was I represented the Bologna family in 2008. Remember the case, and you may not remember this, San Francisco, 3 members of the family were driving home after church, after a picnic after church on a Sunday, Anthony, Michael, and Matthew Bologna, and they were shot almost point blank from another vehicle, Anthony Ramos, an illegal alien who had just been released from San Francisco custody. I represented the widow and survivor in that family, and we filed in state court in California, which was tough. We made it to this California Court of Appeals, and of course, cities did what cities always do, and they claim sovereign immunity. They say, oh, sovereign immunity. Now, their sovereign immunity argument was ridiculous, but in a California state court, you get the judge you get, and you have to deal with it. No, so we didn't win all the way, but we made our point on 1373 that they were violating federal law, and the judges, and we won on that point, other than sovereign immunity, which of course can derail any case. But the point is, I have drafted bills that other states have passed. I drafted an anti-sanctuary city bill in Missouri, passed. Arizona, passed. Alabama, passed. Did you do it for Kansas, Kris? Sure did. And I've introduced it several times, 2008, 2013, and again in 2015 or 16. Every single time. Kansas legislature failed to pass a bill that would take away state funding from local sanctuary cities. You want to know the dirty truth about it? I'll name names. Kansas Chamber of Commerce came out heavily against it. Kansas Chamber of Commerce opposes anything that reduces the supply of illegal labor in Kansas. Let's be blunt about this. That's the reason the Kansas Chamber of Commerce doesn't like me, because I speak very clearly. We are going to reduce illegal immigration in Kansas, and we are going to reduce sanctuary cities and sanctuary jurisdictions in Kansas. It will get done if I'm there. I know how to litigate these cases. They're violating the Supremacy Clause of Article 6 of the Constitution because they're violating federal statute. These jurisdictions, the statutes are clear. They're also endangering the public. When ICE makes a call to a sheriff and says, hold on to this guy, it's not a garden variety illegal alien. It's someone that's been arrested for a crime already. These are the worst of the worst, and we need to get rid of sanctuary cities.
All right, in the essence of time, I'm going to combine the last 2 questions. So in the last 5 minutes, why you state your case of why you should be elected Attorney General. I would like to know what you believe of the rights granted to us in the Constitution of the Bill of Rights in our current environment. Which right do you believe is most at risk and why? So if you could incorporate that somehow into stating your case of why you should be elected Attorney General, I would appreciate it. And Tony, you go first.
When all of our rights are at risk from an out-of-control Democratic administration, it's hard to pick just one, right? They're coming after our guns. It'll be my privilege as your Attorney General to stand up and fight against that. They're coming after our property rights. It'll be my privilege as your Attorney General to stand up and fight against that. When the President of the United States stands up and imposes an eviction moratorium and tells a landlord who may be relying on rent to pay his own bill and to feed his own family, when the President of the United States stands up and imposes an eviction moratorium and in the same breath admits that he doesn't have the legal authority to do it, that's where your Attorney General can stand up and protect you and help you. I think, though, probably the right that's most at risk right now is our right to speak freely, because we have this society where if you don't agree with the popular opinion, then you're shunned, right? And we have to protect that right. That's at the foundation of our Bill of Rights as Americans, is the right to speak freely. I think that's probably the one that's most at risk. There are 3 reasons that you should elect me as your Attorney General. The first is that the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement official of the state. Your chief law enforcement official should be a law enforcement official. Your chief law enforcement official should be someone who's making decisions about your safety and your livelihood based on experience as a prosecutor and as a litigator, and not based on their own political agenda. The second reason is because your top lawyer should be a seasoned, respected, capable, credible, professional, ethical lawyer. Whether it's going to court and defending, value them both, or deciding which lawsuits to file against the federal government to push back against federal overreach, or managing all of the complex litigation that takes place in our state on a daily basis. There's a reason that authority is entrusted in the Attorney General, and that's a reason that person should be a capable lawyer and not a politician. The third reason that you should elect me as your Attorney General is that I don't have aspirations to go to another political office. Okay? I want to be your Attorney General because I want to be the best Attorney General that Kansas has ever had. I'm not running for Attorney General because I want to be governor or because I want to be senator. You elect me Attorney General and you can count on me to serve as your Attorney General as long as you will have me without me leaving early to go do something else. Okay? I'm running for this job because we need a qualified person in that role, focused on that job, focused on keeping Kansas safe, focusing on doing the litigation on your behalf. And that's what I will be doing, not pushing my own political agenda or advancing my own political aspirations. We have 146 days to the primary. When you walk into that ballot booth, the one thing I hope you will remember is this. The proudest day of my legal career thus far has been the day that I had the privilege of standing in front of a military judge at Guantanamo Bay and saying, Your Honor, my name is Tony Mattivi, and I represent the citizens of the United States against this al-Qaeda terrorist. I would be just as proud to stand up in any courtroom in this state, any courtroom in this country, and say, Your Honor, my name is Tony Mattivi, and I represent the citizens of the state of Kansas. I hope that you'll give me that opportunity when you go into the ballot box for the primary on August 2nd. Thank you very much for having me here.
To answer the question directly, I think without question, the liberty that is most at risk right now is our free exercise of religion. And it's being restricted in the name of this out-of-control COVID madness. And I don't care whether you're a Catholic, Protestant, whatever faith, whether it's your beliefs are based on the 139th Psalm or based on the belief that your body is a temple created by God. Many, many Christians have said, no, it is against my faith to take this vaccine. And I have been involved in litigating and defending their rights, and I will continue to do so. Indeed, that will be one of my top priorities of pushing back against the Biden administration, should I be blessed to be your Attorney General. Now, you know that when Governor Kelly initiated her reactions right at the beginning of COVID and restrictions, she shut down churches when secular institutions of the same dimension and character were allowed to stay open. There was a lawsuit brought by two churches, one in Junction City and one in Dodge City. I helped to recruit those two churches into that litigation, and indeed we have some members of the Dodge City Church here in the room with us. When the vaccine mandates came down on September 9th, when Joe Biden said he's lost patience with the American people because they weren't getting vaccinated fast enough. I don't care, Joe Biden, if you've lost your patience or you continue to lose your mind. You cannot take away our rights. And so that's why I've been involved in two lawsuits against these vaccine mandates. The OSHA suit, I could talk for a long time about each one, but I'll just give you a couple of details. The OSHA suit said, yeah, you don't have to get the vaccine if you're willing to pay for your own weekly COVID tests every single week on the job. Now, if you look at the average price of a COVID test, they're not going to cover it. Insurance won't cover it if it's not because of medical necessity, and that wouldn't be medical necessity. It would be over $7,000 a year to exercise your religious freedom. Look at the Air Force case where I'm representing the 36 Airmen. That was the case we launched in Wichita just on Tuesday. The numbers are staggering. The U.S. Air Force has granted approximately 3,000 medical and administrative exemptions to their vaccine order. 3,000. But when it comes to the religious exemptions, they have rejected 4,600, and they have only granted 17, and those 17 were in cases where it was just show because the person was going to be retiring soon anyway. 99.6% rejection rate. That, ladies and gentlemen, is hostility toward religion. And our military, indeed our government in any branch, should never be hostile to one of our first and most important liberties. So which brings me to why I think I'm best for this job. You know my background as Secretary of State. You may not know that I was a professor of constitutional law for 15 years at UMKC before that. I grew up in Topeka, and I went off to Harvard for undergraduate. I went to Yale Law School for my law training, and then when I came back from, and I was also in Oxford for my doctorate, came back from law school, was on the Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, a clerkship there, as any lawyers in the room will know, that's not a small thing. I also spent 2 years advising Attorney General John Ashcroft at the U.S. Department of Justice. And as a law professor, that's when I began litigating these cases all across the country. There's only one person in this room who has this kind of complex litigation experience, who has sued presidents, has stopped them, has won in court, and has defended law after law against the ACLU. I feel like this need has arisen for me to step forward precisely because of the situation we're in. We have an out-of-control president, and ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. We're going to win back the House and maybe the Senate in Congress. What happened when Barack Obama lost the Congress in 2010? That's when he got out his pen and his phone, remember? He started doing executive orders because he couldn't get anything through Congress. We're going to need attorneys general, who are able to stand on the line and push back and bring those lawsuits. So yes, we will be expanding the number of lawsuits. And yes, if we can find some cuts to make an administrative staff, believe me, there's administrative fat in every agency in Kansas and in Washington. We will. But we are going to fight those lawsuits with every asset we have. And unlike some attorneys general in the past who farm out this litigation, they farm out the defense of Kansas law against the ACLU to private law firms, we'll be doing it ourselves in Kansas because we will have the expertise on board. We will not be farming it out to some firm and then paying their rates to do something that the Attorney General's office should be defending in-house itself. And unlike some attorneys general who just give speeches and maybe show up at an event, a political event like this, and act like they're actually doing the work, I am the one who will be drafting the briefs. In fact, I'm working on drafting a preliminary injunction motion right here at this hotel this weekend in our airman case. I will be rolling up my sleeves and doing the actual work alongside the attorneys in the office. And that's unusual. And that's what I intend to do, because that's what I've been trained to do, if you'll elect me. Thank you.
The first thing I shared with you this morning when asked what the top 2 issues were for me and being Attorney General, I gave 3: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to me, they're all important. I think to all Americans, they're important. So to pick one, hard to do. I would say, though, if I had to pick one, it's probably the 10th Amendment, because that allows us as a state to stand against every federal overreach that comes our way. And here's what I've been doing already on those fronts. I am the only candidate on this stage who has worked to get constitutional amendments on your ballot. The only one on this stage. And that's what we need to have going forward as our Attorney General. Value them both, a constitutional amendment to protect life. We're also going to put on the ballot rolling back the bureaucratic state and the administrative state and that administrative swamp. We're going to reform rules and regs and get it back to the legislature, the policy-making arm of the government, who is accountable to you, the people, we the people. That's what I've been doing for Kansans. Also, we're going to protect our sheriffs and make that a constitutionally protected office, that our sheriffs have to be elected by we the people, not appointed by the mayor or the city council and then only accountable to, quite frankly, those politicians, but accountable to each and every Kansan. We're going to get that on your ballot because I've been elected. I have fought in the court of public opinion, and I have a proven track record of getting things done. We're also going to hopefully get on your ballot judicial selection reform. We just got that passed out of Senate Judiciary Committee, reform how we select our Kansas Supreme Court justices. Did you know, you probably already know, that in Kansas, we have confirmation processes for the state librarian, for the Public Employee Compensation Board, and other boards, but we don't have Senate confirmation for our Kansas Supreme Court. The governor gets to pick, along with, quite frankly, a majority commission made up of a majority of lawyers, but we, the people, don't get to decide who should sit and serve on our Kansas Supreme Court. We are working right now on getting that through the Senate. That came through my Senate Judiciary Committee. So working right now, you have proof that I work and I stand up for Kansans' constitutional rights and get things done. That is going to be so important as we fight the left, whether the left is coming out of Washington, D.C. with Biden, or whether that's coming right here out of our own state of Kansas. I think too far we've seen in, quite frankly, our school board elections, we've seen some, I'm a mom of 4 kids. I've been in the schools, I've been there, and I've seen the frustration of parents like me, moms and dads, grandparents too. My parents still live in the area. In fact, my husband and I, we went to high school right in my Senate district where I get to serve. So I have seen those frontline battles, and now we've seen weaponizing of certain branches of government by the bureaucrats. The Department of Justice, those bureaucrats are calling us domestic terrorists when we want to stand up and ask questions of our elected school board officials. That's not right, folks. I've been working on policy that protects us and gives us the ability to continue to stand up for ourselves and our rights. I'm a full spectrum conservative. I believe in all the Constitution, not just a favorite one or two, but all of them. Our founding fathers were, quite frankly, geniuses in what they put together. A rather small, short document, but look at the impact it has. It has made America the greatest nation on earth. We're not perfect, but it's the greatest nation there's ever been, and it is being destroyed from within. And we have to stand up and fight against that from wherever it comes from. And I am prepared to do that. I have fought tough litigation. I have fought tough policy battles right there against the left, right there on the Senate chamber floor. They stand up every time. But we proceed and we prevail. And that's important because we have a lot of fights ahead of us. We've got at least the Biden administration for the next, 2.5 years, whatever, till 2024. Just not helpful. And again, when we lose elections, losing elections has consequences. We are paying a high price in Kansas for having lost in 2018. And we have to make sure that doesn't happen again. We have to make sure we do not have a Democrat AG who will be nothing except an ally for the Biden administration. Because a Democrat AG will not even stand up and defend Value Them Both when Value Them Both passes. Just like the Department of Justice under Obama didn't stand up and defend the Defense of Marriage Act. So elect me, I will serve. You have my record. You know who I am. You know I can be trusted. I'm proven. So I would appreciate your vote for Kelly Warren. Thank you.
Well, regardless of the outcome of the primary, I feel that Kansas is very blessed to have 3 very intelligent, passionate patriots that serve our community. So thank you all 3 very, very much for joining us. Thank you for what you have done, and thank you for what you will do for the state of Kansas and the United States of America.